Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to review the highly regarded The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. And this is what the cover looks like. This definitely catches your attention. When I first saw this, I was actually in a Busboys and Poets and I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's a really catching, it's just a cover that draws your attention. Anyways, when I saw it, I was like, okay, that piqued my interest, but I just never actually read it. And then I kept seeing it come up more and more, and then I saw that they were going to be doing a film adaptation of the book, and usually when it gets to that level, it's kind of like, okay, this must be a really well-received book. And when I looked it up and saw the reviews, it was very well received. So in the first part of this review, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. Towards the end of the video, I will give you a notice that this will be spoiling if you haven't read it. But overall for this book, I give this like a 3.5, 3.7. I will say that this was a very good book. It was really good, but it's just my anticipation as well as I think my expectations of how good the book was way up here. And the book, while it was good, there were a lot of different things about the book that kind of made me not really get as warped into the story as I would like to. It wasn't necessarily something that I felt like I couldn't put down. It was an enjoyable read in the sense of I kept coming back to it and I kept reading it. And I mean, I finished it in a week, but it wasn't something like I was just thinking about that was pressing on me. It is a young adult fiction book, so a fiction book, and this is actually the debut for Angie Thomas. So I'm not familiar with any of her other writings, and I understood why, because this was her debut novel. The Hate You Give, actually, if you look at this, thug. That's because it is inspired by Tupac's, the famous philosopher, rest in peace, Tupac Shakur, with Thug Life, and it's the hate you give little infants, F's everyone. So that's what this book is basically derived upon, and you learn pretty much about that quote and how it impacts this book from the beginning. The book is about a young girl, 16-year-old Star. Her name is Star, and she is basically kind of like stuck in two worlds. She is stuck in, the hood, and then she's also stuck in going to a school where it's predominantly white, and she kind of feels like she's in that intersectionality of trying to code switch all the time as well as trying to, be down. But basically she gets thrust into activism because one of her best friends is killed by the police in front of her. And that's a pretty heavy type of basis for a book in general, but it is real life. So from that aspect, I did appreciate how the story was told. In the beginning, I didn't know too much about the book. So in the beginning, I'm kind of like, where is this going? Because it starts off at a party and it just seems like normal teenage stuff. Some of the stuff is just kind of like, whatever, corny. And then some of it is kind of like, oh, I remember that, but then it starts to get a little bit heavier and you start to witness the inner turmoil that she's going through. All in all, the things that I thought the book did get right, I thought they did get right a lot of the conflicts, like just being a minority in America faces and that you face, as well as a lot of current and social issues, and also a lot to do with our own fear on using our voice and on figuring out what can we do to somehow better the world and better the situation. Some of the areas that I do think it also did well, because this is a young adult fiction, that means usually like teens will read this book. I thought this was a very good book for teens to read. I thought this would probably grip them and catch their interest and pique their interest and kind of sustain it. Some of the things that I didn't vibe with, it was kind of like there's so much going on. Like it was hard for me to really believe that this was really Star. Star almost seemed like a character of 5 different people grouped into one person. And when you read the book, you'll get what I mean by that. But I do think by turning this into a movie, while I was reading this, I was like, this would be so much better as a movie to me, just because there's so many pieces and elements to it, and there's so many scenes that I could see it playing out. The character Star, though, I mean, for one, you know, okay, let me get into, this is gonna start being spoilers. So I will give you some time, if you have not read the book, to kindly exit out and come back when you have read the book. Or if you don't mind spoilers, you can keep listening. I'm not gonna give anything completely away in the next part of the video. So I'll give you some time. So Star, the, you know, lead character in this book, she's the daughter of a former gangbanger. And somehow, not only is she the daughter of a former gangbanger, she also is still living in the hood, but her family could afford to be in a better neighborhood or a better area, but they choose to stay there. But then she also goes to a predominantly white school that's not in her neighborhood, where she is the only black girl, really. And then she also, at the same time, has a half-brother who is the product of her father cheating on her mom to have a baby with a prostitute. And she's also somehow dating this white boy who is really rich. And, you know, there's a lot of other nuances to her life, but that's one of her other things. And then her brother's sister, not her sister, her mother is getting beat up by that person's father, who is active drug dealer, gangbanger, and all this other stuff. So there's so many different things, and it's like, well, that's a lot for one character. You know, not saying that that can't be someone's actual life. I just think realistically, all those things do not affect like one person. Sometimes they may, I don't know, I don't want to speak on that, but I've never actually met someone who had this many, you know, individual experiences in one character and trying to tie that out. So that was a challenge in itself for me to kind of connect with the character. The areas where I did connect with the character just had to do with any of her issues with code switching, a lot of the stuff when you're in white spaces and how that feels and that uncomfortableness and just like, you know, and trying to also as a teen find your footing, which is what she was basically doing. Luckily, she was finding it at an early age. The things that also were weird about the book, there's one that I actually flagged because I wanted to explain why, even though I liked the book, I had some things where it was like, ugh. Okay, so this is a part where, so this is dealing with Star's boyfriend, who is white, and he's in the car with all her black relatives and friends. Nothing but black relatives and friends. Okay, and this is Chris. What? Surprise, the white boy knows NWA, Chris teases. Man, you ain't white, you light skinned. Agreed, I say. Wait, Seven laughs over our laughter. We gotta test him to see if he really is black. Chris, you eat green bean casserole? Hell no, that's disgusting. The rest of us lose it saying, he's black. Wait, one more, I say. Macaroni and cheese, full mesh or a side dish? Chris' eyes dart around us. And it keeps going on in this thing on giving him a black card. And it's like little stuff like that. It's stuff that just annoyed me, kind of. It wasn't necessarily anything big, but it was like, oh, can we stop with this? But then there's other parts where it's like so good. This is the part where Star gets her voice and she's like, at the end of the book, kind of like a part of a riot almost. Well, no, she is in a riot, even though she's not rioting. And this is what she says within a microphone. Everybody wants to talk about how Khalil died, I say, but this isn't about how Khalil died. It's about the fact that he lived. His life mattered. Khalil lived. I look at the cops again. You hear me? Khalil lived. And, you know, she kind of, all this chaos is around her and she's like finding her voice and she's like, I'm not taking this anymore. You can feel the fear ripping off of her in this passage. So I feel like those were the moments within the book where it really captivates you and kind of inspires you. All in all, like I said, I did like the book. I did enjoy it, but I do feel like I am going to probably enjoy the film adaptation more. But I do still think that it is a good read. And you should definitely, if you're, you know, looking for books by Black authors, or if you're looking just for young adult fiction books, this is definitely a book that has, you know, funny elements and it breaks up teen angst along with actual current real issues. So I am so curious to hear if any of you guys read this book, what your thoughts were on it. So please comment below if you've read this book and how did you feel about it. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.